aren't that different. And compassion just when you need it most. Life is a circle. May yours help you live the healthiest life possible. Intermountain Health.
This Friday from 10 to 1, the movie show comes to Sound Sleep. But first, take time to learn about a better night's rest. Sound Sleep delivers oral appliance therapy that treats sleep apnea without the use of CPAP machines. They're professionally fit, warranted, and covered by most major medical insurance. End the days of a poor night's sleep. With offices from Clearfield to St. George, Sound Sleep will help. Call Sound Sleep at 801-716-8672 today.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
Still seeing good speeds on all the Valley freeways as well as our main secondaries at this time. And if you happen to be on I-15, a good drive north and southbound in Weber, Davis, Salt Lake, and Utah counties. Whipple Service Champions, your cooling, heating, plumbing, drains, and electrical specialist. Whipple that away. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today's rain should be tapering off soon and lead into a dry rest of your work week. Today, the temperature is expected to hit 62, and then that spikes to 70 tomorrow and 76 on Friday. Right now, it's mostly cloudy and 54 degrees. I'm Heather Peterson from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
President Trump passing the 100-day mark of his second presidency. The first part of his term has not been without controversy, whether it's tariffs, the economy, immigration, the rule of law, or DOGE. We've all heard about DOGE. There's been plenty to discuss for the last few months. The president sat down with ABC News for an exclusive interview to talk about his first 100 days. Let's listen to some of that right now.
What do you say to people who are concerned you are seizing too much power and becoming an authoritarian president like we haven't had before?
No, I would hate them to think that. I'm doing one thing. I'm making America great again.
Welcome to Inside Sources. I'm your host, Rusty Cannon, here with Aaron Ryder. So today we're kicking off things with a look back at the president's first 100 days and several of the things he spoke about in this exclusive interview with ABC News last night. I don't think I can talk today, Aaron, but I'm going to try.
You're doing a great job,
Okay, I'm getting there. So plenty to talk about. As you know, Aaron, we have had no shortage of things to talk about with the president and the new administration over the last 100 days, and it continues. I still don't know why, and I wanted to ask you this as we start, why everybody picks 100 days. I don't know if it's strategically wise to do something like that, because all you do, if you know your policies might take time to germinate and have some good effects, I think, touting 100 days can end up being a mistake. However, if you have some successes and you want to highlight them right off the bat, I don't see anything wrong with it, but just that emphasis on 100 days, I think kind of hands a little bit of a baseball bat for your opponents to beat you up with. And certainly some things that he could be beat up for at this point.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I also think that there are certainly, the first 100 days, at this point, we're 4 months into this thing roughly, right? And I think it's not it's not inappropriate to use the first 4 months to say, okay, what have you done? You only have 4 years. Like a term is 4 years. That's really not a lot of time.
Yeah, so we're talking about 10% of his time.
Right. So if you want to get something done, this is a benchmark for how are you doing so far. We all know that this isn't the end of the road. We all know there are more things to come. And when you include the fact that the midterms happen halfway through and that you could lose one of the House or the Senate or both, that I think has an even bigger impact. So I don't think it's inappropriate to look at the first 100 days, as long as it is also with the caveat that you're looking at it through the lens of what is the indication of where we're heading based on the first 100 days.
Yeah, so I think I'm as you know from the last time we hosted together, I'm a golfer. I love to golf, so I'm going to use a ton of golf analogies in this segment. I'm hopefully don't drive you nuts, but. I'm going to talk about his birdies. I'm going to try to highlight his birdies, but we're also going to talk about his bogeys, and then he has some quadruple bogeys.
Okay.
On a scorecard, we call him a snowman. You don't want to write those down, a big 8 on a hole. And he's got 1 or 2 of those in my mind, and we'll talk about that. So as they were going through, But he does have some birdies as well. But let's listen to another sound clip. This is him speaking with Terry Moran about tariffs and also kind of concerns as, hey, did Americans sign up for this?
Trade war with China that Moody's and other analysts say is going to cost American families thousands of more dollars per year. And there is a lot of concern out there. People are worried, even some people who voted for you saying, I didn't sign up for this. So how do you answer those concerns?
Well, they did sign up for it, actually, and this is what I campaigned on. I said that we've been abused by other countries at levels that nobody's ever seen before. We were losing $3 to $5 billion a day on trade. We were losing $1.5 trillion to $2 trillion a year, not sustainable. They were taking advantage of us like they've never. I could have left it that way, and at some point there would have been an implosion like nobody's ever seen. But I said, no, we have to fix it. I've wanted to do this for many years. I had the best economy.
Well, I love that we ended on, I had the best economy. And that was great.
Yeah, getting back to a good note.
Yeah, to end that. All right, Rusty, here's what I want to ask you. He says, he's asked it, Terry Moran asks him, what about people who says they didn't sign up for this? And Trump's response was, they did sign up for it. Mm-hmm. So that's, we've talked about this a lot on the show. I don't mind a rebalancing of trade. I don't mind that. I really don't. And I think it's perfectly fine for the president to say, look, there are other countries who just aren't pulling their weight. We're shouldering a huge responsibility around the world, and it's costing American families. We need to rebalance that. That's fine. I'm happy to support that. But do you think that this is what Americans signed up for when... Because he was right. He campaigned on this. He campaigned on the economy. It's probably one of the biggest things that got him elected. Mm-hmm. But is this what we signed up for?
Yeah, that's a great question. In my opinion, I don't think this is exactly what we signed up for. I think this is generally what we signed up for those who voted for him. I've said it many times. I voted for him for 3 times. I want him to succeed, and it's hard to talk about. I'm going to call this issue tariffs his quadruple bogey. This is the snowman on the scorecard right now. This has not gone well. Now, there are many supporters of his that will say they love it because he's taken a hammer to it. Right? Let's get in there and break stuff. He's taken a hammer, and I don't think it's a good hammer in the way that it's unfolding, and saying, I'm going to propose the biggest, boldest, baddest tariffs out there, and other countries, if you don't like it, well, then let's talk about a deal. Now, if it goes to the point where I would say it needs to be by June before we get to this 60-day reprieve being over, and you're not knocking down a bunch of deals and having some positive come out of this where we're bringing down tariffs globally and getting to a lower tariff, hopefully a zero tariff, but a lower tariff world, this was all for nothing, and he's blown the first part of his presidency.
Yeah.
But I think they still have time to rescue this. But yes, we signed up for it. I don't remember this being the great... Yes, I'm going to go vote for him issue. I don't remember that. And maybe my memory is
tariffs or the economy?
Yeah, it was the economy, but it wasn't like go hammer the economy when everybody finds out about what you want to do with tariffs. It's more of, good trade policy, fair trade policy. And he's not been shy about talking about tariffs and how much he loves them. Did I think he would drill down this hard? No. And so I think you could have 2 answers to that question. I think this is generally what people signed up for. I don't think they signed up for the intensity of it.
Well, and I think, to your point, too, the intensity with which he has gone after tariffs alone, it's almost like tariffs are his sole and only solution to the economy.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's another area where people are like, well, wait a minute, I didn't sign up for that. Like, tariffs traditionally don't work very well. Mm-hmm. And if we're suddenly losing out on trade with a whole bunch of partners that we had in the past, like you said, if the deals come through, okay. And I think there's a longer leash here for him where people are saying we're willing to give you the benefit of the doubt, but he's going to have to start showing results on this pretty darn soon.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's going to look like he just took a bat to a china shop, the bull in the china shop, and broke a whole bunch of stuff without fixing anything in return.
Yeah, let's listen to some more what they talked about when it came to tariffs.
Hard times are ahead?
I don't think so. I think great times are ahead. Look, since I came in, gasoline is down, groceries are down, egg prices are down, many things are down, just about everything. You don't have the drop in fuel and energy and oil like we did. I took it from maybe $3.20, maybe more than that, down into a much lower number. when you have that kind of a drop, you're not going to have inflation.
Not now, but it's the tariffs, right? We still have 145% tariffs on China. Your Treasury Secretary said we basically have an embargo on China.
Look, you're trying to say something's going to happen, Terry.
No, okay, well,
nothing's going to happen.
You know business.
Terry,
I want to ask you.
I do know business.
Yes,
and
so 145% tariffs on China, and that is
that's good.
basically
That's
an
good.
embargo.
They deserve it.
It'll raise prices on
They
everything
deserve
from
it.
electronics to clothing to building houses.
You don't know that. You don't know whether or not China's going to eat it.
That's mathematics.
China probably will eat those tariffs, but at 145, they basically can't do much business with the United States. And they were making from us $1 trillion a year. They were ripping us off like nobody's ever ripped us off. And by the way, we have other countries that were just as bad.
So that was a lot of detail on China, and I wanted to get your opinion, Aaron. That's a pretty stiff tariff on China, and he says maybe they'll eat it. I think he has a point. There is a chance when those imports come in that I want to call it a duty, but it's a tariff right at the port has to be paid. That can be swallowed by the other side. It doesn't mean it has to be passed on to consumers. Now you'd think there's a likely case it would. Who do you think eats this 145%?
Well, I think China certainly gets some of that. But, I mean, on the show yesterday, we were talking about the fact that both Shine and Temu are now putting They're putting the price on there, and they're passing it right back down to American consumers. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, from a business sense, right, if I'm being charged an increased tax, well, I'm just going to pass that tax right through to my consumers rather than letting it eat into my profits. Yeah,
and I think in short order, the president needs these prices to not start rising sharply like this, or it's going to just completely backfire. I think time is short. We'll have to see. I think he's got about 30 days to turn this conversation around.
Yeah.
We'll see. All right, next on Inside Sources, the first 100 days of President Trump's second administration. We're going to shift our discussion to a success. I'm going to call this one a birdie, the border and immigration. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. For years now, I've been telling you about Connecticut soft water systems that use 2/3 less salt than the others. But I've never told you exactly how they do that. Well, there are several ways, so consider this as part one in a series. Most of the softeners out there use a finicky, hard-to-adjust computer to guesstimate when to cycle, and it errs on the side of cycling too often, which means it'll burn through way too much salt way too soon. Connecticut is different. It has an all-mechanical system that measures the water precisely. No computer, no guesstimating, so it cycles only when needed. The result? Connecticut delivers perfectly soft water 24/7 using minimal salt. So why not save your lower back from carrying the 3 bags of salt when all you need is 1? Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake. Call them now, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com and tell them Doug sent you.
We were living in D.C. and we were ready to buy our first house, but it was in Salt Lake City.
I found out through family that the house that my dad grew up in was put on the market.
We had less than 24 hours to put an offer in, and it happened to be on New Year's Eve.
So we immediately contacted our realtor. She was on it from the very beginning. We got the house.
We got the house. Being 2,000 miles away, our realtor really helped us. And there's no way we would have gotten the house if we didn't have our realtor.
Discover how a realtor can make a real difference at myrealtorstory.com.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy, and Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park, Hurricane. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Ready to order?
Yes. We're earning unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with a Capital One Saver card, so let's just get one of everything.
Everything?
Fire everything! The Capital One Saver card is at table 27, and they're earning unlimited 3% cash back.
Yes, Chef! This is so nice.
Had a feeling you'd want 3% cash back on dessert.
Ooh, tiramisu.
Earn unlimited 3% cash back on dining and entertainment with the Capital One Saver Card. Capital One, what's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Seems everything costs more these days. Gas, groceries, and when's the last time you checked your wireless bill? When it comes to Big Wireless, if you're staying, you may be overpaying. Switch to Consumer Cellular to get the same fast nationwide coverage without the big wireless bill. Plans start at just $20 a month, and now for a limited time, new customers can get their second month free. Call 1-888-FREEDOM, visit a store near you, or consumercellular.com and start saving today. Plans include $5 credit for autopay and e-billing. Taxes, fees, and other third-party charges will apply. See website for additional details.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for.
Hit it. It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss, because right now, you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Are you serious? Yeah! Just 3 weeks in, and the pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight. Without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself. My body did exactly what it wanted to do. I just gave it its tools.
Let's spring into summer right now with Soda Weight Loss. If you want to look like this for summer, now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Remember, this is our best offer of the year, so let's go.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Right now, water heaters are on sale at Any Hour Services. Schedule a free estimate today to see how much you'll save. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
What's the one thing, just one thing, that you think is the most significant thing you've done so far in these 100 days?
Well, I think maybe the border is the most significant because our country was really going bad.
President Trump's 100 days in office, wrapping up with an exclusive sit-down interview with ABC News' Terry Moran. We're continuing our discussion on the president's achievements and controversies during the last few months. Last segment, we talked about tariffs and the economy. Rusty, this segment, we're talking about border and immigration. And I do think that President Trump is right on this, that the border is probably the most significant thing he's done. There's no question that numbers of border crossings are down. They're doing a lot on border. We're going to talk about some of the challenges with this in a minute here. But first, just, you said in our tease here that you thought this was
this is a birdie.
This is a birdie, right?
Yeah, this is a birdie for me. Sticking with the golf analogies, this I think is the main reason he won this last election. I would say this and the economy. And I think he has done everything he promised to do. This is an important issue to many, including myself. And I think, how could you argue that he hasn't done very well? The border crossings, by all measures, they haven't stopped, but they are way, way down. I've seen figures over 90%, 95%, somewhere in that ballpark.
Well, let's actually listen to that.
Yeah.
So during a cabinet meeting in the Oval Office today, President Trump talked about his administration's efforts on border security.
For 2 months in a row, we have set the all-time records for the lowest number of illegal border crossings ever recorded. The number of illegal border crossings released into the United States is down 99.999%.
That's quite the specific number he threw out there. So it's,
well, he can't say 100.
No. Whether that's the exact number, it's that ballpark, right? And I think he should get a pat on the back for that. He has been decisive about it. It was quick. And in addition to the efforts on, and we'll get into that next as well, like you mentioned, deportations, but as far as the inflow, and this is what I argued many times on the show when President Biden was in office, the incentives were all messed up. The incentives were for them to get over the border because if they could, they would be released. And then who knows when they'd show up for here, all that stuff. Those incentives were taken away really quickly, and the message was sent, and obviously they're down. They'll never completely stop, but they're way, way down. I think that's when we were speaking in the last segment about what people signed up for. That is exactly what we signed up for, and I think he's done a great job.
Yeah, and I think that's fair, because if you think about immigration, there are dozens of components to immigration, and it's a really tricky issue. It's an issue that we've debated since the founding of the country. But I think one of the biggest issues on people's mind was the illegal border crossings and people just coming into the country illegally with no consequence, and the impact that was having on communities and, you know, the economy, like all sorts of things. So even if Donald Trump does nothing more than dramatically reduce the number of illegal border crossings and kind of solve that issue, I still think that's a win for him on immigration.
Yeah,
right?
I agree. Now, they've been taken a little bit off message.
A little bit. I think they've been taken a
little bit off message on this. So let's listen to another soundbite on that with ABC.
Kilmar Abrego Garcia. He's the Salvadoran man who crossed into this country illegally, but who is under a protective order that he not be sent back to El Salvador. Your government sent him back to El Salvador and acknowledged in court that was a mistake. And now the Supreme Court has upheld an order that you must return him to facilitate his return to the United States. What are you doing to comply?
Well, the lawyer that said it was a mistake was here a long time, was not appointed by us. Should not have said that. And just so you understand, the person that you're talking about, you're making this person sound, this is a MS-13 gang member, a tough cookie, been in lots of skirmishes, beat the hell out of his wife, and the wife was petrified to even talk about him, okay? This is not an innocent, wonderful gentleman from Maryland.
I'm not saying he's a good guy. It's about the rule of law. The order from the Supreme Court stands,
sir. You came into our country illegally.
You could get him back. There's a phone on this desk.
I could.
You could pick it up, and with all the power of the presidency, you could call up the president of El Salvador and say, send him back right now.
And if he were the gentleman that you say he is, I would do that.
But the court has ordered you to facilitate that.
I'm not the one making this decision. We have lawyers that don't want to do this.
But the buck stops in this office.
No. I follow the law.
So this is where I don't give President Trump credit, right? This is where I think the immigration stuff has fallen short, because if you are going to talk about deportation and if you're going to talk about prisons in El Salvador, you have a zero error. There's zero room for error.
Yeah.
You cannot make a single mistake because you are dealing with people's lives, especially when you then go on and claim, I can't get them back. Sorry, shrug. Like, that just does not fly. And this is where, like we were talking about, this is where his messaging has gone wildly off base, because now the message is shifting away from what he has done on immigration into this whole fight over due process.
Yeah.
And, honestly, whether or not Kilmar Abrego Garcia is a good guy is frankly a red herring. It's irrelevant to the issue, at least at this point in the case. What matters now is exactly what the reporter is talking about, Terry Moran is talking about. He had a protective order not to go to El Salvador. You violated that, and now you're pretending that you can't get him back. And
I have not understood why they're going down this road. The best solution, if I could be king for a day and go back in time and just say, hey, here's what the response should have been. The attorney should have said, the location was a mistake. We're bringing him back, and then we'll deport him to the proper country.
Yeah.
That would have been the right thing. And that's exactly what President should be doing.
Yeah.
Just bring him back and send him to another country.
Right.
Issue over. Instead, you're digging in, talking about character. I just think it's a losing argument, and it's taking them off message.
Yeah.
And there's been some interesting back and forth on, hey, are you talking to the country or not? So today, in their cabinet meeting, we actually have a soundbite from Secretary of State Marco Rubio. Let's listen to that, and then we'll give you some background.
Well, I would never tell you that. And you know who else I'll never tell? A judge. Because the conduct of our foreign policy belongs to the President of the United States and the executive branch, not some judge. So we will conduct foreign policy appropriately if we need to, but I'll never discuss it. And no one will ever make us discuss it, because that's how foreign policy works.
I thought that was great. So that was because the reporter asked him that, there have been some sources saying that Rubio had been in touch with El Salvador leader Bukele about Mr. Garcia, the one that we're talking about. And that was his answer, saying, I would never tell you that. I mean, like, these are obviously sensitive conversations, and we will do that in not just. I thought it's always fun to listen to Mark Rubio. I think he's awesome. I think he's doing a good job. I've always been a fan of Mr. Rubio. I need to be upfront about that. But
and we'll see what happens. I mean, again, I think that you're right. What the Trump administration should have done, well, first of all, we have due process in this country for a reason, and they need to follow that. If they're not going to follow the due process, then their credibility in terms of immigration goes like completely out the window, right? And people become terrified that they're going to be deported accidentally. And so they have to follow that rule. So they should have done that in the first place. But even if they didn't, right, like you said, if this guy accidentally gets sent to El Salvador, okay, yes, you're right. Look, we're trying to do good things. We're really trying. We're making good on the promises we made to the American people about this. Yeah. This was an error, but we are in the process of bringing him back right now, and we are going to, and then every single subsequent deportation you go through has to be absolutely
you
clean.
Cross your T's and dot your I's. Don't
Everything has
screw
to be
this up
clean.
again.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so a little bit more on the birdies, as I love to keep using these golf analogies. The Deseret News had a great article about our Utah delegation, what they think of his first 100 days. It should come as no surprise that they had a lot of praise for the president, Senator Mike Lee. In fact, they all praised him number one on the border in the first 100 days. In addition, Senator Lee talked about, quote, he liked how to rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse across the federal government, and to rip the woke anti-American race and gender agenda out of the public institutions by its roots. Now, that is a hot-button issue in Republican circles, of course. John Curtis doing the same thing, saying, hey, border has been great. He's been in a difficult position in those first 100 days, what he was handed, done phenomenal there. Blake Moore, again, also saying a big win on the border, as well as Celeste Malloy and Burgess Owens, all giving praise on the border, in addition to some of the other stuff. As example, Representative Owens talked about going through DEI mandates, rooting out, sort of that divide there and restoring merit and holding colleges accountable. That's been a big issue. Protecting girls' sports, cutting costs for hardworking families, and returning accountability to the people's government on that DOGE theme. So some praise, generally speaking, from the Utah delegation, which should come as absolutely no surprise.
Absolutely no surprise. All right, Rusty, we have maybe 15 seconds here left. I'm going to ask you a question.
Okay.
If you had to give a letter grade to President Trump's efforts to root out fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal government, what would your grade be?
Ooh, that's tough. It's too early to tell. I would give him a B+.
Okay.
Yeah, because they have not shown great substantial results. It takes time to germinate.
Yep.
But they've been trying. They have certainly been trying.
Yep.
They just needed to actually happen.
I think I give him about a B- for those same
Hey, we're
reasons.
close. B+,
So,
B-.
And that might be generous.
We'll give him
but
a par.
See. We'll
give
see,
him a par,
right?
not a birdie, but a par.
We'll see. All right, when Inside Sources returns, let's bring the immigration discussion back to Utah. We'll continue our deep dive into the Utah Compact and how it still applies today, how the Compact affects policing, coming up after the break.
1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. The woman who survived an American Fork home explosion in 2024 is suing Dominion Gas and a few other companies, saying they are at fault. Shirley Hunt alleges that her home near 100 North and 300 East in American Fork exploded after Dominion workers opened a gas line valve, allowing gas to flow into her home. Hunt is asking for punitive damages that will be determined during the trial. We've reached out to Dominion Gas for comment. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments today over a proposal to create a religious charter school in Oklahoma.
The case questions whether the First Amendment allows for religious charter schools to take public money to educate students. Liberal Justice Sonia Sotomayor.
The essence of the Establishment Clause was, we're not going to pay religious leaders to teach their religion.
But conservatives suggested schools of all religions could receive the funding. Justice Brett Kavanaugh asked a lawyer for the Oklahoma Charter School Board.
You're not saying that the state can favor one religion over another.
We are not saying that at all. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News, Washington.
Your money at this moment, the Dow is down 220 points. The S&P is also down 43 points. And coming up, partly cloudy skies this afternoon. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 1:32.
Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Do you need new windows? Look, all glass pretty much looks the same to the naked eye, but if your windows aren't triple-coated, argon-filled and sealed double-pane glass, the cold is seeping in. You need to call Advanced Window Products. They use the highest quality glass and premium vinyl to create state-of-the-art windows and frames, and for 38 years, they build those frames right here in Utah. Custom crafted for Utah's climate. The best windows you can buy at prices 30 and 40% less than what the big companies charge because they cut out the middleman. They're the factory. They even give you a lifetime warranty. And right now, as we head into spring, save an extra $2,500 off 10 windows or more. Custom windows that'll give your house a fresh new look and save you money on your heating and air conditioning. Advanced Windows offers 60-month 0% financing, even buy now, pay later, and an extra $2,500 off. Call for a quote. 801-850-9100. That's 801-850-9100, or go to advancedwindows.com.
Hey, it's Brian with Olson's Greenhouse. In today's busy world, your home should be your sanctuary, a peaceful retreat where you can unwind, breathe deeply, and recharge. And what better way to create that haven than with flowers? A pop of color in your flower beds, a cheerful container garden by the front door, or a lush patio filled with vibrant blooms can transform any space into a personal oasis. Flowers don't just brighten up your home, they lift your spirits too. Research even shows that surrounding yourself with plants can reduce stress and boost happiness. At Olson's Greenhouse, we grow premium quality plants that make it easy to bring beauty and joy into your life. Whether you prefer bold, eye-catching colors or soft, soothing pastels, we have the perfect flowers to complement your space. And with locally grown plants, you know they're ready to thrive. This spring, create a sanctuary of color and comfort with flowers from Olson's Greenhouse. Find us on Instagram at Olson's Greenhouse Gardens or go to OGG.com to find a retailer near you. That's OGG.com for Olson's Greenhouse Gardens.
Spring is the perfect time to refresh your home, and Zero-Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning is here to help. Right now, get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, plus a free hallway for just $119. And for a whole home refresh, take 20% off upholstery cleaning. Unlike traditional cleaners, Zero-Res uses patented ZR water, a powerful cleaning solution that lifts dirt and grime without harsh chemicals or detergents. That means your carpets and upholstery stay cleaner, longer, and dry in hours, not days. It's safe for kids, pets, and the environment. Plus, every cleaning comes with the Zero-Res Gotta Love It guarantee. If you're not completely satisfied, Zero-Res will re-clean for free within 30 days. Don't miss out on these limited time offers because spring cleaning starts now. Get started today at Zerores.com and mention KSL to lock in your deal. That's Zerores.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meeks.
Still seeing a good drive on all the Valley freeways, but for downtown drivers, watch for the final clearing of a crash at 1300 South 100 West. You can always text us your traffic tips into the KSL Mountain Home Services text line. Another true David versus Goliath miracle movie from director T.C. Christensen. See Raising the Bar, the story of high jumper Alma Richards' journey from rural Utah to an Olympic gold medal, in theaters now. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
A high of 62 today. The sun is back out tomorrow with a high of 70, and it sticks around on Friday with a high of 76. And right now it is 55 and mostly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com for Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm your co-host Rusty Cannon here with Aaron Ryder today. Next, we're going to talk about the Utah Compact 15 years later. This obviously deals with immigration, and Utah law enforcement finds themselves often in the middle of this debate on immigration. KSL 5 TV continues its series called Immigration 2025, The Dream Divided, by taking a deeper look at immigration policies and the role local law enforcement agencies play in these processes.
The Utah Compact says local law enforcement resources should focus on criminal activity, not civil violations of federal code. We asked Moab Police if that guiding principle still rings true for them today.
Go, go, go. No grass or team colors. Come on, little ones. But don't let this game on wood chips and dirt fool you. These are sandlot rules. The competitors? Kids who spend time at Moab's Multicultural Center. And local police officers.
It's small. It's neighborly. You've got everyone knows everybody.
Police Chief Lex Bell says it was staff at the center who told him how changes to federal immigration policy were making some people feel.
We get people coming in and asking questions or, expressing that they are afraid.
So it kind of broke my heart to hear that they were afraid now, or that anyone was afraid to call us for help.
In the tight-knit tourist town that welcomes visitors from all over the world, Bell says fear of contacting or cooperating with police hurts everyone's safety.
If we don't have people willing to be witnesses, then there are going to be some really bad people that get away with some bad things.
That's why Bell says he put out a statement in February, as did many Utah law enforcement agencies, letting folks know that his department is focused on the safety of all community members.
It was very reassuring, yeah.
Reaction online was mixed.
Were you surprised by the negative feedback?
I actually was.
Signaling a split among Utahns, one reflected in a recent poll for Deseret News. 48% of Utahns say undocumented immigration makes them less safe. 31% say it has no impact.
Fear that undocumented people are responsible for a disproportionate percentage of crime in our communities is a factor driving conversations around immigration policy. But what do the numbers actually show? That's complicated. Research often relies on incarceration records because that's where a person's legal status is recorded.
Undocumented immigrants make up 5% of Utah's prison population, and that's consistent with what KSL reported back in 2010. So how does that compare to the state's population? Well, it's hard to say exactly, but the Center for Migration Studies estimated about 100,000 undocumented immigrants called Utah home in 2022, which is about 3% of the state's population.
I don't believe it's ever a question I've asked anyone.
In the day-to-day work of policing Moab, Sergeant Monty Reisenhoover says immigration status isn't his focus.
It's not really relevant in the moment.
And that's consistent with the Utah Compact's guidance to focus on criminal, not civil violations. But not everyone in Utah agrees with that approach. Asked whether Utah law enforcement should help deport immigrants whose only infraction was crossing the border without documentation, 56% said yes.
We're not federal law enforcement, so we don't enforce federal law.
This year, the legislature passed a law requiring sheriffs to report undocumented immigrants serving time to ICE.
It's critical that we're cracking down on crime.
We do try to do some outreach.
We asked Kane County Sheriff Tracy Glover whether the new law makes Utahns safer.
In Kane County, it literally won't change anything.
As president of Utah's Sheriff's Association, Glover has talked to sheriffs across the state about jail operations. He says notifying federal authorities is already common practice.
I've not found a jail that hasn't been making notifications.
But that doesn't mean they're looking for immigration violations.
I don't want people to think we're out doing sweeps or roundups or those kind of things. That's not really our job.
But one sheriff's department is making immigration enforcement a bigger part of their job. Washington County told us they're partnering with ICE to identify undocumented people in their jail and joining with ICE for a task force. Utah is dotted with towns and cities where law enforcers must balance their official duties with maintaining the community's trust.
The political environment is what it is. We can't affect that too much. We need to be as steady as we can be.
Steady and focused on the mission of public safety for all.
There's no room for people to be afraid to contact us for help.
We reached out to ICE for this report, but did not hear back.
All right, so that was a good summary from Daniela Rivera on some reporting that they've done. So, Aaron, I was curious to ask you as an attorney, is there any legal questioning behind local law enforcement helping, assisting ICE with deportation of illegal immigrants? I would assume there's not, but I mean, is there any tension between it's if I heard the sheriff correctly in Kane County, it's kind of a non-issue. Hey, we're all reporting it. We're working with ICE. I don't know if this is an issue that is really happening in Utah, but is there ever some dissonance between the two where local, well, I'm pretty sure I've heard of other states where this is an issue where they're doing that, but can it be an issue?
Well, this is where it gets complicated, right? You want your local law enforcement focused on crime in your neighborhood, right? So if you have a burglary down the street, you want the cops to show up and you want them to be there. And at the end of the day, a lot of times it comes down to a question of bandwidth. And when it's a federal issue like immigration, oftentimes that's left to the federal authorities, whichever agency is ultimately responsible for that. In the case of immigration, it's ICE. And, so how does that affect Utah? Historically, with the Utah Compact, we've just sort of taken the approach that, look, ICE is going to do its thing, local law enforcement is going to do their thing, and if the two need to interact together, great, but we're not doing ICE's job for them.
Yeah. So according to polling, as she mentioned in her report, 56% in Utah say yes, local authorities should help ICE with deportations. And as he mentioned down in Kane County, obviously a more lightly populated county, Kane County, than up here where we're airing the show. So maybe some different issues in that sense. But it sounds like, and I wouldn't fault the legislature from pushing forward a bill as she reported on to, hey, you need to make sure you're reporting to ICE and cooperating with them. We'll talk about in our next segment where that's gone quite wrong in Wisconsin last week with a judge, but we'll save that for the next segment. But it sounds like this is a very hot button issue around the country. But in Utah, everybody's getting along on the subject, it sounds like.
Yeah, I think so. So that's why, you have the president of the Sheriff's Association saying this isn't really going to change anything. Because what you do want is if you have a local law enforcement officer arrest somebody, they find out that they're here illegally, what they should do is contact ICE and say, hey, this person's here illegally, and then ICE comes in and takes over from there.
Yeah.
And that's more or less what's already been happening.
Yeah.
So, if we need to pass a bill that mandates that, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But where I think I disagree with the poll is I don't know that it makes sense to take the resources of local law enforcement and require them to assist with actual deportations. Mm-hmm. It's a federal issue. Let the federal government handle that. Let ICE handle that. Our job is just to notify them when we come across that.
And I think the headlines lately have been more about raids, things like that, in the actual going on and gathering, versus it seems that it's a fairly common occurrence where this just happens just like you described it. It's handed off and they both do their jobs.
Yeah.
So it sounds like working fairly smoothly here in Utah. Next on Inside Sources, we're going to continue on the topic of immigration. We're going to talk about an issue that happened last week, and there was an update today that was pretty interesting. The Wisconsin Supreme Court has suspended a judge who is accused of helping a man evade immigration authorities. More on that next.
Every year, we seem to have a few people trying to get our free furnace promotion after the sale has ended. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I know you want to save as much money as you can, but that's not how sales work. When they're over, they're over. Lucky for you, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than April 30th, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I gotta pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, don't be one of those people that wishes they had called and taken advantage of our free furnace sale. The estimate's free, and we'll make sure you have all of the information you need to decide if our free furnace sale is right for you. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
KSL Broadcast Group contests are open to participants 18 years of age and older that are residents of Utah, unless otherwise specified. Employees or agents of the station, Bonneville International Corporation, other area radio stations, or any entity associated with the contest may not enter. Persons who have won in the last 30, 60, or 90 days from a station contest or event may not be eligible. Full general contest rules are available at KSLNewsRadio.com/contests.
This is Secret Clinical dominating extra stinky stress sweat. And this is regular deodorant. Secret Clinical in a heat wave. Oh, what a beautiful day. This is regular deodorant. Ugh, I can't. Secret Clinical with workout sweat. Let's run another marathon. And regular deodorant. How much more? Secret is the GOAT. Because nothing fights sweat better. Stay fresher under pressure.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million+ products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
It's Jeff Jr. from Trajan Wealth, and I've got something important to talk to you about, your 401k. If you have changed jobs, there are two very important considerations. You don't want to leave your 401k behind, and you don't want to roll it over into your new company plan without consulting Trajan Wealth first. 401ks will often have limited investments or age-based options. Since companies have to make choices to suit all employees, they may not be suited to you, which could cost you fees and money. When you roll over your 401k into an IRA, you not only keep your money growing tax deferred, but you also gain access to a world of investment options specifically designed for you. Trajan Wealth and our fiduciary advisors have helped thousands, and we can do the same for you. Call Trajan today at 801-899-7600. 801-899-7600.
Advisory services offered through Trajan Wealth LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.
Do you want to make your house more comfortable, more energy efficient, more valuable? Well, maybe it's time you took a look at your doors and windows, and there's nobody around who does doors and windows better than Peach Doors and Windows.
Improve the functionality of your home with custom replacement windows, entry doors, patio doors. Maybe you have a sunroom or you want a new custom front door and windows to maximize the beauty of your home. Peach offers flexible financing available to fit any budget. They've got expert installation, including fiberglass doors, which are their specialty, and they'll replace your windows with the highest energy efficiency rating.
And customer service is a top priority. It's the reason why they have so many 5-star reviews on Google. You can check it out for yourself. You can also check them out online at peachbuildingproducts.com. You can call for a free in-home estimate, 801-566-1255.
Or see them in person, 2940 South, 300 West in Salt Lake City. They're open 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. Go check out their beautiful showroom. It's Peach Doors and Windows.
Emergency medical unit, respond to 102 Maple Avenue. Possible stroke victim.
When stroke occurs, you have 60 minutes to win or lose the race of your life. There are new treatments, but you must get to a hospital fast. If you suddenly feel weakness on one side, have trouble speaking, walking, or seeing, it could be a stroke. Call 911. Get to a hospital. Because how you spend the next 60 minutes could determine how you spend the rest of your life. Stroke. Know the signs. Act in time. A message from the National Institute of Neurological Disorders and Stroke.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
More developments today in the case of a Wisconsin judge accused of helping an illegal immigrant run and hide from federal immigration officials. Judge Hannah Dugan was arrested last week. Now, the Wisconsin Supreme Court is suspending her indefinitely while the case plays out. Judge Dugan currently faces 2 federal charges in a case that has sparked claims of judicial intimidation from the left and judicial activism from the right. Boy, this is kind of a crazy thing. Let's just start by setting the stage here, because we have not talked about this on the show yet. News Nation's Mills Hayes with more details on how authorities say Wisconsin Judge Hannah Dugan tried to help an illegal immigrant escape federal immigration officials.
And an FBI affidavit described the judge as visibly angry over the arrival of immigration agents and called the situation absurd before leaving the courtroom. Agents chased the man down and he was taken into custody on the courthouse grounds. Protesters gathered outside the federal courthouse in Milwaukee with signs saying Hannah Dugan is my hero and no due process, no peace. Attorney General Pam Bondi blasted this, calling them deranged and saying that nobody is above the law.
So here's what I find interesting. We're having all these conversations on due process and making sure that you go through the right process. You have someone who is here illegally sitting in a courtroom, like the definition of due process, right? They're sitting in a courtroom in a trial. ICE agents show up. They're in the hall. The judge is angry that ICE agents are there. And so she goes outside and says to the ICE agents, you've got to go talk to the chief judge, sends them on down the hall. While they're going down the hall, she goes back into the courtroom to the defendant and his attorney and says, come with me. Takes them through the jury door, which is not really a public door. It's a separate thing, right? Leads them into a non-public area and out like a side door, basically, where the guy then tries to run. The ICE agents come out and there's a foot chase and they arrest him anyway.
I think you make a great point. Yeah. If anybody wanted this issue to be handed on a silver platter to whether Republicans or others that want to talk about judicial activism, this is it. I can't believe the judge did this. She literally said, she went out in the hall, got angry with him, as the report said, well, you have an administrative warrant. I want you to go get a judicial warrant. Send him. So they complied. They went, and they were on their way to getting that judicial warrant because they could take care of him in the hallway. They could get him in the hallway. That is a safer place to do it, because in court they often like to do it there because they go through security to get there. You know, you're not going to be dealing with somebody who could be armed or dangerous. You're in a court. It's a safer place for everybody, right? And she berates them, sends them on a way to go, get a different type of warrant, which they were complying with, and then lets this guy out the back door. This was no saint. He was there because he beat up 2 people and put them in the hospital. This is no saint. And she takes him and then lets him out the back door. Just, I can't believe that she would go this far. Asked about this at the White House earlier, I think this was earlier today, the border czar, Tom Homan, had some comments about this. Let's listen.
You can sit aside and watch. You can argue against us all you want and protest all you want. But when you cross that line, I've said this 1,000 times, when you cross that line to impediment or knowingly harboring, concealing an illegal alien device, you will be prosecuted, judge or not.
And that's the key right there, judge or not. This is one of the hottest issues right now, that whole judicial activism. This is a clear-cut case of exactly that. That is exactly what this judge does. Now, this isn't made up accusation. This is an affidavit. As you know, as an attorney coming from the FBI, they had witnesses, all of that in that affidavit. And all this is what happened according to many different witnesses. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about this. And then what I thought was significant today, the Wisconsin Supreme Court, on their own, went and suspended her.
Right.
And they put a temporary judge to fill in for her indefinitely. Their quote said, the order noted that the court was acting on its own initiative and was not responding to a request from anyone.
And if you remember, this is the Wisconsin Supreme Court, which just had an election.
Yes, you're right. I didn't even think about that.
A highly contentious election over whether or not this court was going to end up being more liberal or more conservative. This is a more liberal court. Elon Musk's candidate lost, so it's a more liberal court who is actively taking this step to say, nope, you're going to step down. Now, in the legal system, we all know the phrase, innocent until proven guilty. There's a case that's got to go through the rounds here with Judge Dugan. But just because there's the presumption of innocence until proven guilty does not mean that you are entitled to retain a position, particularly one of being a judge, where you are now ruling on law that affects other people. So I think it's probably perfectly appropriate for the Wisconsin Supreme Court to say, you know what, this is a huge issue. We need to be very careful about the PR around this. We need to be very careful. And we have this affidavit. There are clearly some issues here. So you know what, we're just going to suspend her. They didn't, they didn't impeach her. They didn't kick her out of her seat entirely. They're just suspending her until the case is resolved. And frankly, I think that was a good call by the Wisconsin Supreme Court.
The other quote in the order, it says, it is ordered the Milwaukee County Circuit Judge, Hannah C. Dugan, is temporarily prohibited from exercising the powers of a circuit court judge in the state of Wisconsin effective the date of this order and until further order of the court. I mean, that's pretty cut and dry. She is been set aside, and they now have a temporary reserve judge, as they call it, filling in that actually started on Monday of this week. So that was immediate. I like what you brought up earlier of all the weeping and moaning about due process when it comes to immigration. This is this is another due process question. They were abiding by due process, proper procedure to come and get this gentleman and take him out of the country as they were checking all the boxes and doing the due process. She then short circuits it and goes and tries to let him out the back door. I don't know what was going through her mind in thinking that this might actually be a good idea at some point. But as the report mentioned, they did find him quickly outside and he was taken care of. So it was much ado about nothing. Every report that I've heard, and this happened, it's not quite a week ago, but it's been several days, but we're finally talking about it on the show. I have not heard one single report on this from credible sources where they've said anything different than, she looks like she's in real trouble on this one. Like there's no one saying, well, but this or that or these factors, maybe she was that's pretty cut and dry. You have a unanimous verdict from her court, the Wisconsin Supreme Court saying we're suspending you, and the evidence seems pretty cut and dry.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, this was probably a good call by this Wisconsin Supreme Court because they were just in the limelight themselves. And with all of the issues surrounding the court systems right now, the push and pull between the executive branch and the judicial branch, the last thing you want as a Wisconsin Supreme Court is to once again be caught in the crosshairs of what the presidential administration is doing. And so where they're looking at this and saying, you know what, we need to quiet this down as quickly as possible. We're going to temporarily suspend you, and we will deal with this again when your case is over. I have seen people, I've seen the outrage. I think some of that comes from the fact that this is one of those interesting instances where, yes, we have had the Trump administration doing things that are inappropriate. We literally just talked about that. Yeah, we just did. Yeah. But this is one where this was not an inappropriate thing for the Trump administration to do, but they're still going to get the pushback because there's so much hype. There's so much chaos. Like, this is a perfect example of nuance and why it's so important to understand what's happening with each one of these instances, because in this instance, that criticism is probably unfair, whereas in other circumstances, it's totally fair, right? Yeah.
Like I said, silver platter. Like this, and I don't mean to make light of serious situations, but if they wanted, they could not have done a better. She could not have done a better job of putting this on a silver platter for those that are fired up about judicial activism than doing exactly what she did. It seems like a snap decision. Yeah, I think pushback on it will only help the Trump administration or anybody that is fired up on this issue.
Yeah. Yeah. All right, coming up in the second hour of Inside Sources, energy is the talk of the town right now. We'll discuss a tri-state partnership for nuclear development, plus more on how costs for electricity are going up in Utah. We will be right back.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Claire Scott. KSL's top story this hour. The Social Security Administration is working to get Americans a digital copy of their Social Security cards. Director at the Center for National Security Studies at UVU, Brandon Amaker, says if it's digital, it's vulnerable.
There are going to be segments of the population that will probably be very late adopters of this technology, particularly elderly people. How do we ensure that a bunch of people don't start imitating elderly people in order to get access to a digital Social Security card?
Weak passwords, website security, and other encryption tools also pose a risk. But Amaker says if they stay strong, your digital card could actually be more secure than the paper card. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A new report says the U.S. economy shrank for the first time since 2020. Here's ABC's Rebecca Jarvis.
What you're really seeing here is that uncertainty that is playing out across corporate America. We've now heard from so many companies, including UPS overnight, talking about the fact that they can't even forecast their future right now because of the uncertainty surrounding tariffs. So you see that uncertainty playing out in the GDP report that we just got.
The GDP decreasing at an annual rate of 0.3% since the beginning of January. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 140 points, the S&P is up 8. And coming up, clearing skies. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time 2:01.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. For years now, I've been telling you about Connecticut soft water systems that use 2/3 less salt than the others. But I've never told you exactly how they do that. Well, there are several ways, so consider this as part 1 in a series. Most of the softeners out there use a finicky, hard-to-adjust computer to guesstimate when to cycle, and it errs on the side of cycling too often, which means it'll burn through way too much salt way too soon. Connecticut is different. It has an all-mechanical system that measures the water precisely. No computer, no guesstimating, so it cycles only when needed. The result? Connecticut delivers perfectly soft water 24/7 using minimal salt. So why not save your lower back from carrying the 3 bags of salt when all you need is 1? Call Northern Utah's authorized Connecticut dealer, Connecticut Quality Water Systems of Salt Lake. Call them now, 801-576-8600, or log on to softwaterutah.com and tell them Doug sent you.
This is Secret Clinical dominating extra stinky stress sweat. And this is regular deodorant. Secret Clinical in a heat wave. Oh, what a beautiful day. This is regular deodorant. Ugh, I can't. Secret Clinical with workout sweat. Let's run another marathon. And regular deodorant. How much more? Secret is the GOAT. Because nothing fights sweat better. Stay fresher under pressure.
This is the story of the one. As a safety manager at a manufacturing plant, he does everything he can to keep his coworkers safe. From finding ways to reduce risks to keeping safety supplies in stock. And for that, he relies on Grainger. Grainger offers a broad range of quality products and next-day delivery, so he can always play it safe. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates, this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy, and Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park, Hurricane. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Mountain America's MyStyle checking account with built-in benefits. Here's Ricky Meese.
Still seeing a nice and quiet drive on all the Valley freeways in Utah County, actually Wasatch County. We do have an accident over to the shoulder. This is at the top of Provo Canyon near Deer Creek Reservoir on Highway 189. Look for those vehicles to the right. Murdoch Hyundai, home of 3.99% for 6 years on Santa Fe, Tucson, or Elantra. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
The rain has dispersed, leaving partly cloudy skies this afternoon. The sun is out heading into the weekend, with the next storm forecasted to arrive on Sunday. Right now it is 57 and partly cloudy. I'm Claire Scott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources for our second hour today. I'm your co-host, Rusty Cannon, here with Aaron Ryder. We're going to shift to a Utah issue. Power bills. Power bills will be going up a bit, but not by as much as previously proposed. The Utah Public Service Commission will allow Rocky Mountain Power to increase power rates that would amount to $87.2 million, a far cry from their earlier request of I'm sorry, I can't talk today, like I said, Aaron. I thought I'd get better in the second hour. I'm still struggling. $667.3 million ask from Rocky Mountain Power originally. Now, this means most Utahns will see their power bills go up each month by about $3 to $4. So a modest increase after what was initially going to be a pretty massive increase.
Yes, and it was this has been highly controversial if you've been following this, because the initial request would have been a 30% increase on power bills, and everybody just kind of freaked out over it. The legislature, I mean, we're talking like literally everybody freaked out over this.
Yeah.
And so, and this was, at least a year ago that this proposal was first put forward. So this has been a long process of coming to an agreement on what this rate increase would look like.
Yeah, the original request, as I mentioned, $667 million. They then changed it down to $330 million, then changed it again down to $243 million, and then the Public Service Commission, as we just mentioned, approved $87.2 million. So a good reduction. Way to go, Public Service Commission. So let's listen to what David Eskelson, he's with Rocky Mountain Power, said when he spoke to KSL News Radio about the decision.
Rocky Mountain Power is disappointed with this order. It's lengthy, nearly 200 pages, so we need to determine the full financial implications of this order and evaluate the company's next steps in our responsibility to provide electric service to our customers. And so there's more analysis that's going to take place.
So you heard, obviously, the disappointed. Let's listen to what he said about why this increase came about.
Well, rate increases happen because the cost of providing a service is increasing. The company spends more than $2 billion every year just to provide service to the state of Utah. And as everybody well knows, the cost of everything has been going up in recent years. And so those costs need to be reflected in the rates that are charged by the company.
So, Aaron, as we were discussing, as we were preparing for this segment, there was another event that has something to do with this. In 2020, there was a massive fire in Oregon, and Pacific Corp was part of it. So Pacific Corp owns Rocky Mountain Power, right? Parent company, and they were found liable for damages from, if I pronounce it right, the Santiam fire, if I'm pronouncing that right, in 2020. It was a big problem. There's a question where down power lines part of the issue. There were some deaths in the fire, 2,000 square miles, destroyed over 5,000 structures. It was bad. There were lawsuits, obviously, after that.
And this was in Oregon.
Yeah, in Oregon, exactly. So you're wondering why this has anything to do with Utah. We'll get to that. There was awards, I think, over $700 million that was paid out already, or will be paid out by Pacific Corp. Maybe this is on appeal, but this is definitely part of when they talk about increased costs. It's not just from, the usual inflation concerns we're talking about. There was an extraneous event that is likely part of this. The question is how much would Utah ratepayers suffer from consequences of something in Oregon? We'd ask, well, why does that even affect us? Well, obviously, it's a regional company. This is just how the world works. They're going to spread those costs.
Well, utilities are really complicated. When you get into the weeds of how utilities, particularly a power company, operates, I mean, it is highly, highly regulated. There's a whole bunch of red tape that they have to navigate. They don't have the ability to unilaterally raise rates and change things. There's an organization, the Public Service Commission here in Utah, that has to approve any rate increase that affects Utah, even though Rocky Mountain is part of Pacific Corp, which is regional, right, like we're talking about. So this is, and then Rocky Mountain also gets pressure from Pacific Corp on what it needs to produce. Anyway, they're layers upon layers upon layers of what goes into the discussions for rate increases and rate amounts. Even developing, when we talk about development around the state, right? How do we get power out to a community like Eagle Mountain, where until recently Eagle Mountain didn't exist, and now we've got to get power out there, right? So Rocky Mountain has to be involved in that. We have all these data centers that need a ton of energy and power going into them. Lots and lots of factors with this. And so Rocky Mountain Power got to the point where they were like, we can't continue to provide the energy that people need without increasing our rates. We just have to increase the rates. And it's been a fight ever since then because the legislature wants to keep those rates as low as possible. We all do, right? We want our energy to be as inexpensive as possible.
And Utah has been in that position. If you compare our power rates with other states, count yourself lucky. Count yourself blessed. Utah is really well off in comparison to other states. I mean, go look at California. I mean, it's just, well, obviously that's a disaster in every way, but we have it very, very good. And on the flip side, we do need to remember that providing that power, we all want it. When we flip the light switch, we want the lights to turn on, right? And we're willing to pay for that. And we need to realize that costs money, as I mentioned, to upgrade and all of that stuff. Just question is strategy and how you keep it fair. Let's listen to what Chris Parker said. Chris is the director of the Utah Division of Public Utilities. He's talking about how he was pleased the commission decided that Utahns shouldn't have to pay for Rocky Mountain Power's added costs in other states.
Our charge, I think, was to make sure that Utah ratepayers aren't paying for costs and policies and risks that are imposed by other states on the utilities business, and to make sure that we're not paying for costs caused by mistakes the utility may have made in managing its wildfire risks, particularly. So a lot of the reductions in the case track those bits of advocacy, right? We suggested that the risks of catastrophic wildfire liability for the utility in Utah are significantly less than in all of the other Rocky Mountain Power or in all of the other Pacific Corp states. And they're less because of a few reasons. One, obviously we have a lot of rural open range land in the state, but also we have the legislature in SB 224 in 2024 passed some liability protections that really significantly narrow the exposure to large jury verdicts that Pacific Corp has in Utah. So that really narrowed the risk that they face in their Utah territory.
So, as you mentioned, very complicated. In addition to the rate, there is something called the energy balancing account. That's another line item. Some critics, worry that they plan to recover a lot of these costs through the EBA. That's the acronym for energy balancing account. A line item on bills that adjust for market fluctuations. So, I think they'll be under a close microscope there. But this is an interesting argument. It's like, hey, do you want the lights to come on? Well, of course, we all want the lights to come on, but we want rates to stay low, and we don't want to pay for the mistakes from other states,
right.
If you're a company over that. And I understand, both sides of this issue. But even as rates increase a little bit, I think we just need to step back, as we just talked about, and realize we have it pretty good in Utah, like significantly better than other states.
Well, and, I'm sitting here thinking, too, about all of the changes that the legislature is making to incentivize energy companies to come into Utah and what that could mean. We've talked about Utah being energy independent, and, Rocky Mountain Power plays a big role in that, in sort of running and conducting the grid. And there are lots and lots of discussions. If you want to really understand and pay attention to Utah development going forward, energy is one of the big places where you're going to see that.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that in the next segment. One other note, too, for listeners, if your municipality does provide municipal power, like, city near me, Bountiful, has their own power company, this won't affect you. This is a Rocky Mountain Power issue. This is for those that obviously the majority of the state are serviced by Rocky Mountain Power. But if for some reason your municipality has its own power, this issue wouldn't affect you, at least not yet. Coming up on Inside Sources, a major deal between Utah and 2 other states over nuclear development. Stay with us for a conversation on more energy.
This is a story of the one. As a maintenance specialist for university housing, he knows college students can major in wear and tear. Plus, housing so many students doesn't leave a lot of room to house all the supplies he needs. That's where Grainger comes in. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast, dependable delivery, Grainger carries the quality products he needs so he doesn't have to. From a new door hinge to a whole new faucet. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today? Worried about your battery and the heat? We get it. You don't want to get stranded somewhere with a car that feels like an oven. We've got you covered at AutoZone, America's #1 battery destination. Our free battery testing and charging service can help. And if you need a battery, we'll help you find a new one, no problem. Power through with free battery testing and charging at AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Patrick was way behind on his IRS taxes.
I was in way over my head. The total amount ended up being somewhere just over $30,000. $30,000.
Then the IRS came to collect.
Started getting letter after letter. A lien had been filed against me. They were going to basically hang me completely out to dry.
He had to do something.
That's when I reached out to Optima Tax Relief.
Patrick's life quickly got a lot easier.
It was very easy. Pretty much hands off, They picked up the ball and ran with it.
And how'd it go?
I couldn't believe it. I had to ask 2 or 3 times. I saved an incredible amount of money.
How does Patrick feel about Optima?
Couldn't be happier. They definitely helped me. Optima Tax Relief, the best place to call. They're the best in the business.
Do what Patrick did and call Optima Tax Relief for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hi, I'm Dr. Matthew Wappett, Executive Director of the Institute for Disability Research Policy and Practice, or the IDRPP at Utah State University. Did you know that 1 in 4 Utahns have a disability? Think about that. Your neighbor, your colleagues, your family. At some point, disability affects everyone. The USU IDRPP is on the front lines, driving change right here in Utah and across the nation for people with disabilities. For over 50 years, IDRPP has been Utah's University Center for Excellence in Developmental Disabilities, generating vital research that shapes effective policies and delivers real-world solutions. From groundbreaking research to evidence-based training, the IDRPP empowers individuals with disabilities, their families, and the professionals who support them. We're making our communities more accessible and welcoming for everyone. Find out more at idrpp.usu.edu.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Jeff Kaplan. When I was a kid, my parents got me a subscription to Newsweek magazine. I would devour every page into the night. And to this day, I sit on my iPad looking for stories for my Minute of News, flesh out our coverage, and I get to share the news with you.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Governor Spencer Cox and the state legislature have been pushing for Utah to grow into a national leader in energy development. Now, the state's joining with Idaho and Wyoming to further nuclear development and work together for, quote, common sense federal policies, end quote, around nuclear energy. Joining us today, we have Emmy Losofsky, Energy Advisor and Utah Office of Energy Development Director. Welcome to the show, Emmy.
Hi, thanks so much for having me today. I'm really glad to be here to talk about this.
So tell us a little bit more about this partnership. What is it? How did it come about? And what are we hoping to accomplish with it?
So, with our neighbors, Idaho and Wyoming, we have a very close relationship. The governor has worked closely with Governors Gordon and Little, and we have a lot of the same values. We share similar geography, economies, and values when it comes to energy. Both of our states are all of the above strategies where we want to make full use of all of our resources, whether it's fuel or renewable. We want to use our critical minerals. And we're not looking to pick winners and losers. We're trying to do what makes sense for the people of our respective states and in our region. And as we have talked amongst ourselves and worked together on so many things, we decided that it would be a good idea to take a proven model of a compact between the states and use it to apply it to one of the most critical issues we face today, which is energy. So Governor Cox and his fellow governors signed an MOU yesterday, basically outlining their intent to work on a compact for us to work together on energy issues.
So it looks like the governor said this partnership, I'm quoting the governor, this partnership will accelerate Utah's efforts to become the nation's nuclear hub by linking our universities, labs, and industry partners with the expertise of Idaho National Laboratory. We are strengthening our ability to serve Utahns with reliable and affordable energy. So I think that's a good summary. So do we take him at his word here? Are we looking to become the nation's nuclear hub?
We are certainly exploring it thoughtfully, and that is one of the reasons why it's so important that we partner with the Idaho National Laboratory and really utilize the expertise at our universities, at our Utah San Rafael Energy Lab, to make sure that we're making good decisions, because nuclear energy has a ton of promise. As our society continues to electrify and the things that we rely on a daily basis require more and more power, we need to find ways to make sure that we can keep that power affordable to protect our quality of life and do it in a way that is clean and sustainable. And in Utah, we have so many wonderful resources that we can use to bring to bear on the nuclear development front that we think that it's a really sensible way to provide long-term, affordable, clean, reliable power for the citizens of the state and ensure that we continue to have the best quality of life in the nation. And we can do that by also partnering with our neighbors who have the same values that we do, and we can be stronger together if we work together.
So, Emmy, I think we probably have a lot of listeners who are thinking, okay, we're talking a lot about energy. We've heard a lot of talk about energy, but nuclear is something that has kind of come and gone. I think there's been concern about nuclear in the past. I'm just wondering if you can talk to, why are we exploring nuclear now where maybe we haven't explored nuclear as much in the past?
So there was a big, the nation's experiencing a nuclear renaissance is how I would describe it, and many other people. There was a long time where we were building and building and building, and then we stopped building nuclear. And in the intervening years, the technologies have changed drastically. What we're talking about potentially for Utah would be small modular reactors that are on a much smaller scale. And the technology has come so far where they have come up with ways to make sure that when there's anything that happens at a plant, it will always shut down safely and will not pose risk to the public. I think there's a lot of education that needs to be done as it relates to nuclear today. It's not your grandpa's nuclear power plant. There's so many things that they've done to make them more modern, have a smaller footprint, and really be one of the safest, most reliable, clean power sources that there is. So it's something that the state is exploring. And like I said, we really have an opportunity to utilize all of the scientific research and the wonderful people who have spent all this time perfecting these technologies to bring to bear to make good decisions for our state and for the people who live here.
So Aaron, I wholeheartedly agree with the governor here. I think this is the exact path Utah should be going down. Now, having argued in the past about who should pay for such efforts, I think this SMR concept, the small modular reactor, is a sound concept. And if we can do it in Utah, it would create, I would like to quote Speaker Schultz, Speaker of the House, on this partnership. He said, "This partnership drives innovation and keeps energy reliable and affordable for Utah families and businesses." I want to hone in on those two words. Reliable and affordable. And so I would encourage anybody, go and Google Spain and Portugal power problems today. They literally just had a massive blackout, and they have doubled down on quote-unquote clean energy. And you see footage now of people walking around the airport because the airport's closed. They literally almost lost all of their power for a day with a massive blackout with some problems with their solar generation. So, going down the road of reliable and affordable, nuclear is the best way to do it. And I liked what Emmy said. This is not the way it used to be. Things have drastically changed. I guess the one question I have for you, Emmy, maybe this is an unfair question. Let's say we get all this done. Can we ever get it approved? Or that's been the problem. Name a nuclear plant that's been approved in recent years.
So actually, there's one in Georgia, the Vogtle plant.
Oh, that's right.
That was built by Westinghouse. Took a very, very, very long time. And so in the parlance of quick, we were not going to do it fast. And I think that's one of those things where there's all kinds of opportunities because the technological advances with the small modular reactors have made them so that they're so much safer. There are certainly permitting efficiencies that we can gain that the state is working on. But it does take a little while to do it, but that's just part of the game. And we're willing to go through the process because we believe we can demonstrate that this is a safe technology, a reliable technology, an affordable technology, and it's a clean technology. There's no other power source that we're going to be able to harness that will have basically a zero emissions profile and provide baseload power that can power our families' lifestyles. And it's a really powerful tool, and the governor is committed to exploring this as something that will be a generationally good impact for Utah families.
Aaron, I was just going to say really quickly, I actually have toured INL, the Idaho National Laboratory up in Idaho. I lived up there for a few years. And I would encourage anybody that has questions on this to go take a tour of it. It's fascinating to see. There's not glowing zombies walking around and all that. Like they're safely storing the waste there and studying and doing all kinds of things. And it's I'm trying to think of the way to describe it. It's rather uneventful, right? Meaning that it's kind. I don't want to use the word boring. I'm not trying to make it, but it's like it's working fine, right? I mean, am I describing it wrong?
No, you're not. It's remarkably safe. And I've had the opportunity to visit nuclear power plants and stand, 20 feet away from spent fuel rods, maybe 40 feet. But it's safe. I've been in places where they've enriched uranium and they're fabricating fuel, and I didn't have to wear a hazmat suit. There was no danger. They've got every kind of monitor on you just to make sure that they're taking appropriate precautions, and it's safe. It really is safe, and there's so much misinformation out there, and that's one of the things that our office is going to work really hard on is providing good information so that Utahs and communities can understand really what the benefits of this technology is and how really safe it is and how it can be, like I said, a really powerful tool, not just for producing power and preserving our way of life, but also on the jobs front, like the opportunities that the nuclear supply chain could create in the state are tremendous. And we really have a lot of opportunities to be a regional powerhouse. And I think that as we, really thoughtfully approach this, I think that we have a really great chance to do really good things for the people of Utah.
So, Emmy, just in the last 30 seconds that we have here, we're talking about nuclear taking a long time. What should Utah residents look for in the coming years when it comes to nuclear development, but just energy development generally?
I think in general, on the nuclear side, it'll be discussions with communities about how do you want to go about this. There are certainly a lot of people that are interested in bringing parts of the nuclear ecosystem to Utah. And those are going to be conversations that we're gonna have. And in the interim, it's not just nuclear that we need to develop. There's also a really important role for natural gas. There's an important role for renewable energies. It's all about producing the right type of power for the right reasons for the state. And we need everything. You don't want just baseload because sometimes you have peak power needs and you need to have a source that's good at that. And natural gas can do that. Battery storage can do that. There's a role for everything. We just want to make sure that we're doing right by the people of our state by leaning into all of the above.
Emmy Lozovsky from the Utah Office of Energy Development. She's the director. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Aaron and Rusty. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, more to come on energy. This is a never-ending topic for us. But next on Inside Sources, the Salt Lake County Council is giving Smith Entertainment Group the approval to purchase part of the Salt Palace as part of expansion plans for a new entertainment district. More on that after the break.
Good afternoon. It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Maria Shaleos. KSL's top local story this hour. Utah and Salt Lake County rank high in the nation as positive place for AI jobs. Utah's Director of Office for Artificial Intelligence Policy, Zachary Boyd, says the state's commitment to investing in education and business-friendly regulations make the state an attractive option for AI developers.
Encourage our local companies, make this a place that, people who are educated here also want to stay. Then I think there's no reason to not think that I think we'll just continue along the trajectory that we're on.
Biomedical and software are two areas he says are especially growing in the state. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Trump's tariffs on China are being seen in the lack of ships arriving at the nation's busiest ports.
Cargo ship traffic scheduled to arrive in L.A. next week is down 36% compared to last year. At the Port of Long Beach, 13 ships have canceled for May arrivals. The ports of Long Beach and L.A. are the largest entryway for Chinese goods into the U.S. Companies have been delaying and canceling shipments from China, hoping a deal will lead to lower tariffs.
That is ABC's Alex Stone. Taking a look at your money at this moment, the Dow closing down by 169 points, nearly 0.5%, sitting at 40,358. S&P down by 38 points. The NASDAQ down by 168 points. Weather's going to do a little flip again. We'll check the forecast coming up next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
Take advantage of Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric's $99 or It's Free mainline drain clearing special. That's right, $99 or it's free. Feel secure knowing the trusted professionals at Yes guarantee that if we can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Whether it's a small clog or a larger mainline sewer drain issue, the experienced technicians at Yes are ready to solve all of your drain problems. Call now or visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
The power of we believes in you. It advocates for you. It completes your circle. It makes sure you have the strongest circle possible. And with Intermountain Health in yours, you'll always have the care you need to live the healthiest life possible. That's the power of we. Intermountain Health.
This is Secret Clinical dominating extra stinky stress sweat. And this is regular deodorant. Secret Clinical in a heat wave. Oh, what a beautiful day. This is regular deodorant. Ugh, I can't. Secret Clinical with workout sweat. Let's run another marathon. And regular deodorant. How much more? Secret is the GOAT. Because nothing fights sweat better.
Stay fresher under pressure.
This is the story of the one who, as a maintenance specialist for a historic high-rise, knows that vintage charm historically needs constant attention. Which is why when it's time to upgrade turn-of-the-century mechanicals, they turn to Grainger. With easy access to 1 million-plus products and the scale to deliver when and where you need them. The right tools and supplies are never far away. So the one can keep that vintage building running like new. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Traffic and weather together. It's brought to you by Mountain America's My Style checking account with built-in benefits. What's happening on the roads, Ricky?
It is a good drive on all the Valley freeways, but in Weber County, we do have a crash. Possible injuries at the intersection of Hinckley Drive and 1900 West. You want to watch for emergency crews at the scene there. It may take a little while to get that intersection completely opened in Roy. And of course, you can text us your traffic tips on the KSL Mountain Home Services text line. Have you been thinking about getting your carpets cleaned? True Rinse Carpet Cleaning has a spring deal for you. 3 rooms, only $119. That's 3 rooms for $119. Great results and quick dry times. Visit today, TrueRinse.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Still a good chance of showers across the Wasatch Front this afternoon, clearing up mostly by tomorrow. Still a 10% chance of lingering showers tomorrow, but warmer tomorrow with a high of 70 degrees. Right now, mostly cloudy, 58 degrees. I'm Maria Shilaos from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We are Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Utah's top political experts break down the first 100 days of the new administration and discuss the day's biggest stories. Only on KSL News Radio.
Welcome back to Inside Sources. I'm your co-host, Rusty Cannon, here today with Aaron Reiter. Smith Entertainment Group, which owns the Utah Jazz and the Utah Hockey Club, as we all know, has approval from the Salt Lake County Council to purchase part of the Salt Palace Convention Center downtown. Now, the sale includes about a dozen parcels of county-owned land, about 6.5 acres. Sale price a little over $55.4 million. If everything goes as planned, partial demolition of the Salt Palace will begin in 2027. And as we know, as time flies, that will be sooner than we know, right, Aaron?
Year and a half.
Yes, not far away. So let's listen first to what Salt Lake County Councilwoman Amy Windard-Newton said about this issue on Dave and Jujanovic.
First of all, I'll say this is a good deal for taxpayers. Throughout this whole deal, a lot of people have said, oh, you're giving billionaires more money and whatnot. And really, that's not what's happening. I mean, we're so grateful that SCG is making an investment in downtown, because if we don't make an investment and we don't have people who come to our capital city and spend their money and, have eyes on the street so that we can ensure that we have a nice place for people to visit and to be, we're in trouble.
So she also talked a little bit about how the county is viewing the sale and why they think it's important.
So we have this Salt Palace that, and a lot of people don't realize this, but in Salt Lake County, we're actually in the tourism business. We have the Salt Palace, which brings lots of conventions to Salt Lake City, and we love it because people come here, they spend their money in hotels and food and events, and then they leave, and we don't have to educate their kids. We don't have to pay to educate their kids. And so it's a really great economic driver for us. In fact, we've analyzed, and we believe that the money that we get from tourism through that sales tax revenue, that saves the average homeowner in Salt Lake County about $1,700 a year of property tax because it is such a great economic driver.
Okay, so let me ask you, you've been very involved in these types of issues in previous campaigns. Do you agree with her?
Yeah.
How's that for putting you on the spot?
I mean, so this is our producer today was like, oh, I can't wait for Aaron to talk about this issue because
me too.
I just ran as the Republican nominee for Salt Lake County Mayor, and the Downtown Economic Development Project with SCG was one of the biggest talking points in my campaign. And a lot of what my campaign centered on was Abravanel Hall and the issues of Abravanel Hall. So it's going to be hard for me not to just kind of revert back into campaign mode here. I'm going to try and take a little bit of an objective standpoint on this. There's been a lot of talk about the Salt Palace is an interesting thing because it cuts the city in half, right? You look at First South, and there's this huge building that right in the middle of the city that cuts off City Creek from the west side, the Gateway area and the Delta Center. And so the idea behind this whole economic development zone is that you connect those and you bring them together in a better way. I think that's a good idea because having those separate sides of the city does make it difficult for the city to flow as one entity. So I think that's a great idea. Remodeling the Salt Palace, there have been changes in what the Salt Palace needs to offer. The county certainly does have a lot to do with tourism. Councilwoman Amy Windard-Newton is correct in that regard, and being able to offer that as the capital city is important.
Yeah,
right?
I wanted to just quickly interject. She was right there. The convention business is massive.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's very big. And for those that aren't familiar with the Salt Palace, draws a lot of convention business, but it is a little dated and it needs some better structure and it needs to be bigger to continue to draw. And she's right, they bring the people. They bring the people, their money. They spend a ton on not only hotel and food and restaurants and all of that, but all that economic activity, and then they leave.
Yeah.
Like she's right. It's very, very good business, and it's extremely competitive between states. These massive conventions, they absolutely shop.
Well, the outdoor retailer convention, right? Like
there's a great story.
Right. So that all of that is good. And initially, one of the reasons why the county was looking at tearing down Abravanel Hall is because they wanted to take the Salt Palace and put it underground so that they could open up that east-west corridor. But in order to put it underground, you'd have to go right into the area where the box is, the stage for Abravanel Hall, which means you have to get rid of Abravanel Hall or redo it in some fashion. So that's where a lot of the discussion around Abravanel Hall started, was thinking through what do we do with the Salt Palace. Now, how you go about this matters. And when I was on the campaign trail, one of my big criticisms of the county was that there's a lot of deferred maintenance on county facilities that is causing some of these buildings to be dated. It's one of the arguments the county used for Abravanel Hall. We have all of this deferred maintenance. It would cost, it would be cheaper to tear it down and rebuild something new. Even with the Salt Palace, they've got backlogged maintenance of $120 million, and that's expected to grow. So they need to do something with the Salt Palace no matter what. And the county's portion of this downtown economic zone was the second piece of this. Last year there were all the discussions about Salt Lake City and their negotiations. This year it's all about Salt Lake County and how they're going to handle this second component of this. And maybe this satisfies what they need in order to fully push this through. Maybe it doesn't. Salt Lake City is still looking at that. But if they can do this, if this really works in such a way where it's able to bring money into the county to help reduce property taxes and to have a better convention space and also allow this zone to flow in a meaningful way.
Can I just pause you really quick
it's
there?
Great.
I just got to pause you. I just have to laugh. I'm sorry I get on the diatribe about taxes, but to hear they're never going to lower property taxes in Salt Lake County. I mean,
like
come
I said,
on.
I'm trying really hard, Rusty, to not go into campaign mode here.
For her or any of the council members say, we would lower your property. Come on. You are never going to lower people's property taxes. You guys can't even control your budget. But anyway,
well, you said it, not me.
I'm done ranting. Continue.
Like I said, I'm trying very hard here to be objective about all of this. So
sorry,
that's
I took
the point,
you off
right?
your game there.
No, it's fine. I think the ultimate point is if they can structure this in a way that brings revenue to the county in a meaningful way and that helps with the county's budget in that sense and does it in a way that benefits Salt Lake County residents, okay.
Yeah.
Right? My big thing was saving Abravanel Hall, and we did that. Even though I didn't win the campaign, we did save Abravanel Hall. The Salt Palace was kind of the next thing to discuss. And there are still questions about it, right? You still have Japantown and all that area. I know there are some concerns about what the construction and the demolition will mean for that. But, we'll see what they do with it.
Well, the one thing that I think we need to, be grateful for, Smith Entertainment Group provides one thing. Well, not just one. One of the things that they provide is capital. A very large and good checkbook. I'm sorry, there are probably not a lot of groups that would want to come and buy the property we're talking about for this price or buy it at all because it is a risky venture. It might not pan out. It's likely not extremely profitable, at least this portion of it. Now, maybe I could be proven wrong, but that's the benefit of private investment is that you have a motivated buyer that is going to provide some benefit there, and I think they need to give them a little credit for that.
Yeah, and SEG certainly has, they got some bad publicity last year with the way things were going. It did not look good to have tax dollars going to fund this downtown development zone because it looks like money going into a billionaire's pocket. And so I think there's still some stigma and some concern around that. But a good negotiated business deal, especially for something like this, downtown Salt Lake needs revitalization. It just does.
I think we all agree on that.
If they can do it in a smart and good way, then great.
Good. All right, in our final segment on today's Inside Sources, let's stick with Smith Entertainment Group a bit more and get the latest into developments on the redevelopment of the Delta Center. We'll be right back.
What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and there's a good chance you've heard me talking about our free furnace sale. The one where you buy a new air conditioner and we give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it, about $400. Well, we still have a few more spots on our schedule we need to fill, so I'm extending the sale, but I'm not quite sure for how much longer. Definitely no later than April 30th, and once I think our schedule's full enough, I gotta pull these ads, so don't wait too long to call and schedule your free estimate. The main reason we do this sale is to give you an incentive to help us keep our guys busy when the weather's mild. And thanks to your help, we're able to keep our guys and keep growing. So if your furnace and air conditioner are ready to be replaced, you owe it to yourself to at least schedule a free estimate and get all the details about our free furnace sale. Just to recap, when you have Any Hour Services install a new air conditioner, we'll give you a new furnace for just the cost to install it. About $400. The furnace is free, you just pay the labor. If you think you might be interested, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7400. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Be advised, this is your opportunity to save up to 40 to 80% on a hot tub or swim spa. This weekend only, Friday through Sunday, Mountain America Expo Center. 18-month interest-free financing. Our factories have demanded we sell 1,000 hot tubs and swim spas this weekend. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Huge factory incentives, factory rebates this weekend only. Mountain America Expo Center. We can remove your old hot tub. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Hot tub starting at $2,999. Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park. Free delivery of your new hot tub. Just relax and enjoy. 2 locations, Sandy and Hurricane. Friday, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. Saturday, 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Sunday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Mountain America Expo Center, Sandy, and Washington County Fairgrounds Legacy Park, Hurricane. Call 833-SPA-SALE or visit hottubandSwimSpaSale.com.
In today's fast-paced economy, staying competitive means more than just experience. It means standing out with the right knowledge and skills. An MBA from BYU's top-ranked full-time or executive MBA program will give you that advantage. Whether you're looking to move up in your current career or pivot to something new, becoming a BYU MBA can give you the edge you need. You'll gain critical leadership skills, hands-on experience that will set you apart in today's rapidly evolving job market, and become part of an incomparable alumni network. The BYU MBA gives you a top-ranked education at the leading edge of business that's focused on principled leadership, all for an extraordinary value. Scholarship money is available to help you make your MBA goals a reality. Apply soon. Final application deadline is May 1st. Get ahead of the competition. Advance your skills and transform your career. Learn how you could become a BYU MBA. Visit mba.byu.edu.
And now, the moment we've all been waiting for.
It's time to spring into summer with Soda Weight Loss, because right now you'll get our biggest discount of the year.
Are you serious? Just 3 weeks in, and the pounds are dropping off very quickly. I am down 26 pounds in 3 weeks.
Every single day, Soda Weight Loss is helping people let go of the weight without drugs, without hunger, and the weight stays off.
I let go of 50 pounds. It felt unreal. I was so proud of myself. My body did exactly what it wanted to do. I just gave it its tools.
Let's spring into summer right now with Soda Weight Loss. If you want to look like this for summer, now is the time to join America's #1 weight loss company for client satisfaction and results.
Remember, this is our best offer of the year, so let's go.
Get started now at sodaweightloss.com. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
Jeff Kaplan. When you're online, that's sometimes a source of fourth-hand information. Somebody does the reporting. Another website Googles, they find it, they rewrite it, and by the time you read it, you know the old game telephone. But KSL is a source of primary information. We have reporters on the street. They're out in the field finding out the details. And the difference between online and KSL News Radio, night and day.
Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News, 3 to 7 on KSL News Radio.
Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Major renovations are coming to the Delta Center, and now we're getting a better idea of the kind of renovations. Smith Entertainment Group released plans this morning showing how they'll redesign the Delta Center to make it more conducive to both basketball and hockey. This is something they've talked about since the hockey club came here, Rusty, was how we're going to have to make changes to the Delta Center in order for this to work. So let's listen to a couple clips from Smith Entertainment Group owner Ryan Smith, first discussing how loud the Delta Center is now and how they want it to continue being so loud.
This arena's loud. It's really loud. And that's what we love. It's a challenging place to play. And it always has been, and it always will be. And so when we think about the fan experiences, like, we want to maintain that. We want this to be the loudest arena in the NBA and in the NHL.
Okay, so we have loud.
Yes, that gave me chills because I've been to games, I'm sure many people are listening have, where buzzer beaters or those types of things. In fact, I just thought of one specifically I don't remember which game it was, but it was a few years ago, many years ago, being there with good seats in a buzzer beater, and the place was just shaking. He's exactly right, and I think this is awesome if that's what they're going to continue.
Yeah. Well, let's listen to one more statement from Ryan Smith on how the redesigns will help fans stay close to the action.
We're using incredible technology to be able to accommodate for almost any event, but at the same time, not losing what we love is that proximity to the action.
In a lot of dual sport arenas, especially with the NHL, it's flat.
but we weren't willing to compromise and give up our intimacy. We've got a cutting-edge process. Technology's changed over the last 30 years. We found a riser system that is new. It's never been done before, creating something that's truly innovative in a dual sport arena. And we're excited to where we're landing.
I think this could be really cool.
This is cool.
Yeah,
I drove. In fact, when I was driving here before the show, construction is already underway. I remember I passed some fencing. This is exciting. So a couple of bullet points. They've already started, as we mentioned. This will include a retractable seating system that will optimize sight lines for both sports. So a little bit more on that. The vision includes a lower bowl that preserves revered close to the action seating during Jazz games while removing the pesky sightline barriers and providing fans full views from every lower bowl seat during hockey club games beginning next season. I'm surprised to read that. They're going to move fast. These are some of the details that they're just unveiling today. This will also include a 450-stall parking garage and outdoor plaza. They're also part of these plans outside of the arena.
Yeah, we're going to see some big changes in this area, which I actually think is going to be kind of fun. Apparently, this is a 3-year plan, and we're going to see some pretty drastic remodeling to the Delta Center. They've already started. If you see the pictures online, right, like you see the demolition inside where they're already going after this. Mm-hmm. But you think about what the Delta Center has to do and has to accommodate. It's not just the Jazz. It's not just basketball. It's not just hockey. It's also the events that take place at the Delta Center, the concerts and the tours that come through there. And last year, having the first year of the hockey club there, boy, it was a wild ride because it was like every night you could look at the schedule and we have basketball, now we have hockey, now we have a concert, and now we have 2 hockey games, and now we have this, and now we have this, back and forth and back and forth. And that's a lot on the staff there to constantly be changing back and forth between what each of those events needs. So having a system that allows them to make those changes quickly and easily while still giving fans great views of everything that's going on. I mean, this could be really pretty innovative.
Yeah, well, the parking structure I'm excited about. We all know how tough it is to deal with traffic and parking currently. 450 stalls. This will be on the southwest corner. So if you think of this in your mind, of that block. And then as we talked about the sight lines, and the issue is we know with hockey versus basketball, they didn't want to sacrifice that intimate feel. So the solution, a little more detail, a new retractable seating system will have a 12-foot variance in elevation between the rink and court end lines to offer optimal sight lines for both NBA and NHL. The riser system creates a higher pitch for hockey games, allowing more seats on the goal side of the arena. According to the architect, the change in rake is greater than any other building to switch over between basketball and hockey, according to the architect. So this is pretty innovative, and there's some good. We have a great article on KSL.com that talks about this with some detailed drawings as well.
Yeah, and I don't think that basketball fans are probably going to notice much of a change, but you'll really see the change for hockey. I think that's where some of the design's going to come into this is where you're really going to notice that.
So they're going to raise the arena floor 2 feet, and the bowl will be lengthened by 12 feet on each end. So that'll alleviate some of the sightline issues. And because last season most upper bowl seats behind each goal were limited to single goal viewing, as they call it, right? So have been some sightline issues they hope to get rid of.
Yeah, Rusty, have you been to a hockey game?
I have not yet. I want to. I've been to a hockey game, not one here.
Yeah, not.
But yeah, I tell you, we went to a restaurant once a few weeks ago, maybe a couple months ago, near the Delta Center. Forgot it was the night of a hockey game, and boy, we had to wait, and it was really cool. Not only was the place packed, which you always want to see, we had to wait an hour to be seated. I think everybody in there had a hockey jersey on.
Oh, really?
It was, yeah. And I thought, man, I need to get to one of these games. Everybody that's been has told me how much fun they are.
Yeah.
I would like to enjoy it. I'm going to sound really old when I say this, but I can't watch hockey on TV because I can't see where the puck is. And I'm not blind, but I'm just like, I can't see where the puck is. Years and years ago, they put a little red dot around it for a little bit. That must not have worked because that doesn't happen anymore. But you just see them swinging their things like, bam, boom, a goal. Oh, okay, well, I'm glad it was a goal. Where in the world did that come from? Anyway, so I would like to go see one in person.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you need to because, in order to really have the full experience, you got to know where that puck is.
Yeah, exactly. And this sounds like this is going to move fairly quickly, right?
Yes, I think the whole thing is they're hoping for 3 years, which
Yeah, in time for the
Boy.
2026-27 seasons. So, 2 years from now, they want to have this done.
Think about